Right. So, good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of Planning and Highways Committee. This evening being Tuesday, the 7th of May, 2024. And this meeting is being recorded for publication on the Thatcham Town Council YouTube channel. So, turning to the agenda, do we have any apologies for absence, Madam Clerk?
Apologies received from Councillor Jeff Brooks and Councillor Dave Lunn appointed as substitute.
Thank you very much. And do we have any declarations of interest? Obviously, if something crops up later, you can say so then. But is anybody aware of anything at this point? No, so nothing. So nothing to record there. So moving on, the minutes to take as read and confirm as accurate the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of April. Are any comments on those minutes? No one seeking the floor, so I will therefore propose from the chair that we take as read and confirm those minutes. I'll propose that. A seconder from Councillor McCann. Those in favour of doing so? Thank you very much. That is unanimous. And moving on to item second part for the Town Clerk to provide feedback on any matters arising.
Nothing from me, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So we get on to planning applications.
So the first one, 29 Roman Way. It's not the best street view we have here, but it's this property here. As you can see, it's semi-detached and it is on a corner location. Just for context, this is part of the image, unfortunately. It is already a house of multiple occupation. Currently with 4 bedrooms, 2 on the ground floor, 2 on the first floor. The application is to construct a 2-storey side extension and a single-storey rear extension to increase to 6 bedrooms, 3 on the ground floor and 3 on the first floor. The application does indicate that the parking area is to be enlarged, but there's no detail on by how much or anything like that. There's no information on that. So that's the current elevations, and this is the proposed. So side extension and rear. And just to go back, you can see this, there's an additional dwelling has been, what looks like an additional dwelling.
It is, yes.
Has already been constructed on here. So there is a precedence for extensions in the area. Limited overlooking, obviously be overlooking onto the side of this property, and there's only a ground floor window on that side. There is one representation, and the matters that they have put forward are overcrowding, existing drainage issues, increasing waste generation, cars already parking on Roman Way, and the tidiness of with the current occupants of the property.
So firstly, we can discount the last of those objections because that's not a planning matter. But I don't know what the arrangements are for houses of multiple occupation. I would assume you're pretty much needing a parking space per separate unit, or at least because it's not.
I can't remember them off the top of my head.
Well, no, but it's because it's I know what it is for houses, but in principle, I'm thinking in terms of what the actual need is. It is moderately close to bus routes, but. You've got to, I think, allow the possibility. So, comments.
My only concern is exactly what the picture shows you there, that actually it lends itself to just chopping into another house and you'd end up a semi turns into a terraced.
Yeah.
That was my biggest concern. But what the applicant does in the future, we can't discuss that really as such, but I would certainly err towards, if we did agree to that, which looks like they would get by default, that we ask for the condition that it does not revert to another house, because it would make it a terrace, if you see what I mean.
Well, no, because if they were going to divide it, they would have to go for planning approval anyway. Not that they always do, but I would have said actually that my view is that a house is probably preferable to a HMO of six at that location, because it's not exactly. It is, apart from that, pretty much a residential location. There are a few houses in Roman Way that have been subdivided in other ways to 2 flats, and there's a couple a couple that are further along that had extra houses added on, but it is a street of individual dwellings, with this exception, I believe. So
I would say a slight concern is the location being right on that corner.
Yeah. So it seems to me there's two aspects to this. There is the access and parking side, and then there is the principle of the nature of the development. So
I would say that probably knock that wall down at the front, so they can get in and out with their cars. And then the other thing is it's right on the corner as well.
Yeah.
So they'll be coming out on the corner. I know that the other driveway is just slightly to the left.
Yeah.
But they'll be probably, if there's maybe 6 cars on there, they'll be just coming straight out on that corner.
Yeah. So the other one, you can't see it there, or you can click along. But no, if you can go to the along Roman Way and see what the access is to that one.
Yeah, that was
the access is further along, and of course the access for the existing house is the one closest to the road. So that, the new house is the block paving, which is further away still.
Yeah.
So
and that has 2 drop curbs.
It does, yes. Yeah. So I'm getting the feeling that we're moving towards on the grounds of parking provision and access on the corner. The question is about the nature of the development itself. To an HMO of 6 dwellings in this, which is probably unique, I think, in this area, probably.
Is it to be 6 individual dwellings?
Six individual rooms, so it's a house of multiple occupation.
Right.
I believe that is it's a distinct planning class, I would guess. Do you happen to know what the planning? It's not being applied for as a dwelling. It's being applied for as a HMO, which I assume is a different planning class.
They have an extra toilet, because they're talking about waste and things like that.
They're all en suite except for one.
But it's like bed 6 then.
Shower room.
And the other thing is drainage then, isn't it?
I'm not sure what the question, well, that's in terms of connections to the mains drainage, that's a separate matter which the Thames Water will address. There is some points about there is problems with surface water along Roman Way, but so
I think really their biggest concern is there enough parking space in there? Is it going to be safe for enough cars to get out without interfering with the junction?
So if I say we've got two starting points, which is the access on the corner, no information about the provision of sufficient parking, noting that because they're actually distinct properties, distinct units, you probably need the parking to be accessible without moving other cars, which might not always be the case if it was a single house. And the question about having extending a house of multiple occupation in this residential area. I would be tempted to say, as someone who knows the declaration, I live a street away, so I know the area well. This is out of character for the area. So I propose that third. So I make a proposal that we object on those 3 grounds: the access on the corner, the insufficient information about parking, and we think it's likely to be inadequate, given that we think that they have to be individually accessible without moving, the parking spaces need to be accessible without being obstructed by other vehicles. And the development being out of keeping with the character of the area.
Yes.
So I have made that proposal for those three things, and when Mel has finished writing them down, you're happy you've got those recorded. Do I have a seconder for that proposal? Thank you. I think Councillor Watts was fractionally ahead. All those in favour of that, making that objection, thank you. That is unanimous. We move on to the second of two.
To Parkside Road. So it's this property here. And the proposal is very similar to what their neighbour has done, a two-storey side extension. This garage already goes the depth of the property. Yeah. So it's an extension on top of here to the first floor, and to replace this porch with an enclosed front entrance. So the existing, as you can see,
demolition of garage.
The proposed. Limited overlooking, only the bathroom window is on the side of the property, and presumably that would be obscured glass anyway. Highways have requested provision of 3 parking spaces and secure cycle storage. And just again, it's on a corner junction again, but quite a mix of different properties. And this is Park Lane here, just for context.
Looking on that door.
And it's to provide increased living accommodation.
Any comments? I would say the only thing there is if put a caveat on subject to highways being satisfied about any modification to the access in order to provide the parking.
Yeah.
But I think that's a caveat rather than an objection. Because if highways objects, it probably will not, it probably won't be approved. Any further comments on that?
Yeah.
Just, I think it'd probably look nicer if they kept the roof the same shape as the one next door.
Yeah, it sort of leans.
Because the other one,
yeah.
because if I remember seeing the picture, it's sort of
yeah.
It was
that's
that's a desirable. I'm not sure if that's not a grounds for objection.
You know.
Yeah, at this point.
I can't see the point of doing it like that. I mean, you can do it the other way.
Well, no. Maybe it costs more.
Probably gives you slightly more space because. Anyway,
yeah.
And it's not on the corner.
Actually, maybe because it's going deeper than that other one.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
that's true.
Okay, so my proposal is that we make no objection, subject to that caveat that the highways are satisfied about any changes in the access provision in order to provide the parking.
Who's seconding?
I was waiting for the clerk to so she's happy that we've got it correctly. Yeah. Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Thank you. Councillor Lunn David. Yeah, you are a voting member this time.
I am.
Yes.
I'm in this time.
Those in favour of that objection with caveat, thank you, that's unanimous. Thank you. So we have 2 further which we wouldn't normally consider. Any objections?
No representation.
No representation. Thank you. Thank you. So we move on to decision notices.
Okay, so 3 to highlight. Actually want to bring this one particularly to members' attention. It was a little while ago now. Demolition of garden building at the Thatcham Court. You may recall that Councillor McCann mentioned about the barn within the in the property boundary, and that has actually been picked up by West Berkshire Council, and they have refused the application. And this is their reasoning: the lack of the historic impact assessment, and they have mentioned the listed barn in there. So.
Okay.
On that one,
okay.
And what else did I want to, Mallard's Reach, committee raised no objection. That one has been refused, for design, bulk, scale and size. And then you may recall from the last meeting, we had a couple of residents present about this property,
Yes.
off of Sagecroft Road, but in the gardens of properties on Northcroft Road. That has been refused. And that was our
Most people would be pleased.
reasons for its refusal. We're here, it's obviously closed itself down. There we go. So cramped development in the area.
Right.
Demonstrable harm.
Councillor McCann.
Yeah, just so I can state just for the record, I have a property next door, because a lot of people watched it, they wouldn't know. I have a property next door. And
This is to the barn, not the house.
And we had to have a historical survey, review the building, all that kind of stuff. And to my amazement, the farm building onto Chapel Court, my property, the old barn, and the property that we're looking to knock down and redo, there's only 6 examples of that in the country, which I was absolutely astonished with. Because my old barn's a threshing barn, and that was wheat store. But there's only 6 examples in the whole country, which is the only reason I raised it. Yeah. Because it is dilapidated and it needs saving, and it wasn't meant to be throwing unnecessary obstacles, but even I went, blimey.
So can I take that as a declaration of interest?
That's
yes. Okay. So thank you, but that's we're only noting this anyway. So,
absolutely.
Okay, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. That might result in a listing if it's something that rare.
Yeah.
So we've done decision notices. Yeah. West Berkshire local plan review. So there's one specific point, which is this here. Shall I explain it?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So when the local plan was sent out for comment and examination, the plan, the whole of the site put forward by the promoters was included in an extension of the settlement boundary. That included the country parks that were sort of promised in that.
Yeah.
And that is in fact contrary to the policy for contrary to the definition of a settlement boundary in the local plan, and also the exact opposite to what was done for Sandalford. And we made comments to that effect. So in the inspector asked about this, and in response, the West Berkshire Council have proposed a reduced new settlement boundary, which is the dashed line here.
Yeah.
They refer to a number of documents as justification for this, but none of those documents actually contain the specific information about why it is this particular boundary. One point here is you will see that there are 2 portions which are a straight line. That in fact is the medium pressure gas pipeline that runs across the north of Thatcham, which appeared to be completely unknown until this very late stage in the application. That is parallel to that. We don't know how far away it is. That is not stated anyway. And given that there is already a condition in the in that policy relating to the oil pipeline, it's surprising that they didn't propose a modification to refer to the gas pipeline as well. Anyway, be that as it may, the curved parts appear to be, from squinting at a different map, the 105 metres AOD Ordnance Survey contour. No explanation in the documents that they refer to as to why that was chosen. That will be a matter for discussion, probably mainly at the session on Thatcham, but there is also the question about evidence tomorrow. So the question before us is to consider this, what is our view on this particular settlement boundary, given of course that that area is then effectively being deemed to be suitable for housing on the basis of no evidence. So my recommendation to you is that the town council should not agree to this we should object to this settlement boundary being included in the local plan, and our previous statement that the settlement boundary should not be defined until further studies have been carried out should be maintained.
Yes, agreed.
So I propose that, and obviously this is something that I will be stating at the meeting, so I'd be grateful if I could have Councillor Watts is seconding that, and all in favour of taking that position. Thank you very much. That's a further thing for us to be involved in the hearing.
We've discussed this before.
Well, we've discussed, yes, this is a new proposal that appears to have been. So basically, the inspector asked about the best part of 100 questions, and
the answers and replies.
And the council sort of hurried to provide answers, and haven't thought through the consequences in some cases. So there are other problems with the local plan as well. Anyway, so we move on to updates relating to the West Berkshire local plan. So I shall go with some of those other problems. As I say, the council, the inspector asked the best part of 100 questions. One of them was related to a document that we considered a couple of years ago, called the West Berkshire Strategic Vision 2050, which was produced by external consultants. And we made detailed comments on that document. We weren't consulted, but we found out when a resident who saw a report on this contract in a journal for planning professionals, and then we've tracked down who it was and asked them to be involved. We provided them two sets of detailed comments, which resulted in 0 modifications to the document. One of the errors in the document, it's still there, is to state that Thatcham is 3 kilometres west of Newbury. If they can't correct that sort of obvious thing, then it's anyway, the problem with this document, so that in response to another of the inspector's questions relating to National Planning Policy Framework, they're proposing to reference this document. And it states that there would be 1,700 houses in the next plan period, followed by another 700 in the following plan period. So that contradicts the information in the policy. And this is another matter which will be pointed out, which I should be pointing out. There are further contradictions. So the hearings start tomorrow. They are available to watch on the West Berkshire Council's YouTube channel, but they will not be recorded, so you have to watch them in real time. Tomorrow is mainly procedural, and tomorrow and Thursday are procedural and legal matters. Tomorrow is procedural and legal matters. Thursday is the spatial strategy, which is the top level policy relating to where new houses are distributed around the district as a whole. And we've made comments on that. But our main comments are on the one relating specifically to North East Thatcham, which is in the second session a couple of weeks later. So that'll be a couple of interesting days. There's a document which I can circulate, and another version came out today telling us exactly, gave us more information about how the inspector will conduct the hearings and exactly who will be attending, who will be represented. Because effectively, the purpose of these meetings is for the inspector to clarify and ask questions. It is not an opportunity for representatives to make statements and lobby. So they're just answering questions, and the people who are being asked to attend are entities, organisations that the inspector wishes to get clarification from. So there are many aspects of the local plan are not disputed or are settled, or the comments are not relevant to the purposes of the examination. And those people have not been called, otherwise there'll be 3,000 local residents. So it is key players who the inspector thinks have something important that he needs to inquire about. There is no cross-examination, thankfully. So the inspector asks questions, you can comment on the other, but you're not cross-examining witnesses in the way that you would for a local planning inquiry. So that's what's going to happen. I shall be there with two hats on. There's about, in each session, there's between 6 and 15 probably participants. West Berkshire Council's are obviously present at all of them. And the majority of the others are developers, either successful or unsuccessful, with a few other parish councils and a few statutory undertakings. But it's largely West Berkshire Council developers and parish councils, with Thatcham and Bucklebury being the major players. So that is that, and no doubt you'll find, if you want to watch tomorrow, you're welcome. Tomorrow's the first two sessions will be very legalistic. If you're not familiar with the background, you might find it difficult to follow the interesting days of the two for Thatcham. Anyway, so that's, I think, a summary, unless anybody's got any questions. Councillor Watts.
You were talking about having expert witnesses later on.
So again, this is a question for, I will be the opportunity to speak to the inspector in person. So this is relating to two of the key issues that the inspector is talking about in relation to North East Thatcham, is the viability of provision for education and for healthcare. And the questions he's asked might benefit from experts, and therefore we are investigating whether a representative of the Birdwood Health Centre and the trust, Equinox Trust, which is the Kennet School, would be attend in order to give expert opinion. Obviously, I need to check first if the inspector would find that useful. He may not wish to drill into those particular points, but if they are, we will do our best to get the experts there. Okay, thank you. So, planning matters.
So this was an application to convert a front garden into a driveway. The appeal has been dismissed, and the couple of main issues stated there, which includes surface water flood risk.
Well, Northfield Road actually has a stream running down it under.
We've got to afford. We're doing better than you.
There is actually a culverted stream running down Northfield Road. So
it is like a Ford now.
Okay, so planning matters, land east of Goddards Way. This is the
chair. My apologies. I probably should have mentioned at the start. This matter's coming before Eastern Area Planning tomorrow night, which I sit on. I don't think we need to vote on it. But
I'm just going to give you an update. There's nothing to decide on. So just to say there that since we considered the application, and you recall that we approved it with a number of comments. In fact, all of three of the comments have been addressed in the application. So in terms of the height of the building, the proponent has submitted revised plans which reduce the height of the portico and set the building slightly into the ground. So that reduces the height, not quite as much as we hope, but quite a significant amount. And the conditions proposed by the planning officers as conditions of approval would address our concerns about EV charging and solar panels. So those 3 points would be addressed if the plan is approved with those conditions, which would be the normal practice. And I shall be there probably virtually tomorrow, because I'll be spent all day in one meeting.
Wow.
So and just to note there that the normal practice is for the parish councils to divide the time between themselves, but as Thatcham Town Council and Midgham Parish Council have opposing views, West Berkshire Council has kindly agreed that that the exceptional procedure will be adopted, which we can both have the full time to speak, which means we don't need to work out how to divide that time. So that is that all I'm going to say there, and no doubt we'll get the report on the decision at our next meeting. Traffic management issues.
Yeah, just say there were no other planning
Okay,
matters.
sorry.
Yeah, so Colthrop Lane closure from today until Thursday, 9:30 and 3:30.
Yeah.
The footpath closure, this is the footpath that runs through the development that's taking place just off of Lower Way. I think this is probably the second or third extension. So that's the permission to close that footpath is now in place until the 2nd of November. Got that.
So yeah, the West Berkshire Council, if a footpath is to be closed for more than 6 months, West Berkshire Council has to apply to the Department of Transport for permission to approve that extension. Seems a rather bureaucratic procedure, because they only have to apply every 18 months for a road, but it's every 6 months for a footpath. That is the footpath, the red line. Yeah.
A number of footpaths resurfacing taking place over the next few days. There are letters that have been sent to affected residents for the information.
Okay.
Over to you. For
So,
this one.
footpath between Beverley Close and the Memorial Playing Field. Do you have a picture of it? So there is Beverley Close is the road, the close, the opposite, the next one down, going towards Newbury beyond the Memorial Field. It runs north, and there was a footway between the Memorial Field and Beverley Close. And in the last week or so, there was this notice went up, followed by, if you go to the second picture, the important one. No, you've got the picture with the actual fence. That's the one. So you can see the footway there, and that fence has appeared. It appears that as you can see, that it has been the resident of the property. It's actually the property to the right as you look, has trying to absorb it into their garden. And several councillors have received complaints about this. So I've done some investigation and spoken with an officer of West Berkshire Council. The situation is as follows. This is not a public footpath. It is not on what's called the street gazetteer, the list of streets, so it's not maintainable at public expense. It has been there since about 1980. And the interesting point, if you could go to the second document, amazingly, on the West Berkshire Planning Portal, there is a document from that planning approval in 1980. And if you scroll down to condition 5 of that, this is the conditions of the approval of the application. It says provision shall be made in the development for pedestrian access from Beverley Close to the public open space, which shall be laid out and maintained to the satisfaction of the District Planning Authority. So the person I spoke to in West Berkshire Council is the definitive map officer. It is, in principle, there are grounds for considering that this could be considered to be a public footpath and therefore recorded on the map, but that is a complicated and lengthy process. And he suggested that the next step should be to contact West Berkshire Council's planning enforcement to ask them if this condition is still valid and can be enforced. So what I suggest that we do is I propose that we request the clerk to write to the Planning Enforcement Department of West Berkshire Council to make that inquiry and ask them to do so if it can be enforced. That, of course, that planning condition is notwithstanding any title deeds about the ownership of the land. So the question is whether it's still valid.
Slight technical question, and you seem to be size of the councillor. Once planning permission has been started, those conditions are enforceable. I wasn't aware there was any time restriction on the conditions.
It depends what's happened subsequently. So because this is a planning Yeah, that's a good question. That's a question, but we need, that's a question that we're asking them, is it enforceable? Is it effectively, and they can tell us, there may be subsequent, there may be some time limit, there may be some.
There may be a somebody did something else.
There might be something subsequent. So anyway, so that's I propose that we ask the clerk to write to West Berkshire Council to make that inquiry and that request. So is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Lunn. Jay? Those in favour of that? Those in favour of that, thank you very much. So that is perfect to be done. If not, if that doesn't work, there is the prospect of application for it to be a public right of way. But I would suggest that the residents would believe in that.
Yeah. Perhaps it's a conversation offline.
Yeah.
About future.
Yeah, but that's that would be the next step is to ask about that planning. So done. So finally, to receive any traffic management, highways, road safety matters arising since the publication of the agenda.
Just one, Chairman, and that is Berrysbank Road will be closed on 16th of May between 9:30 AM and 3:30 PM from the junction with Greenham Road and Crookham Hill. And the closure is to enable Volker Highways to carry out permanent carriageway repairs.
I know already. I'll put it on the next floor.
If they're permanent, then presumably they don't have an excuse for closing it again. Thank you very much. So that's, I think, that brings us to the end of the agenda. So I therefore would close the meeting. Thank you very much.